Hello everyone, I'm majicDave and this is Sapiens. I thought it was about time to do an FAQ video. Basically lots of people have been asking heaps and heaps of questions, and a lot of them are the same, and I was sort of trying to answer questions in YouTube, but it got a bit overwhelming, and really I need to focus on making the game, and I can't afford to sort of spread myself so thin by answering every single comment. So please do keep asking questions. I do read all the comments on YouTube, but I thought it would be better to try to answer them all in one big video. Before we get too far along, I should also say that I am recording this in April of 2019. So if it's 2020 and you're watching this, then you should probably, it might be interesting, but it's not necessarily accurate anymore. You might want to see if there's a newer video available or something. Things will change. So the first question I should probably answer is, what is Sapiens? What is this game? So the description, I'll just read it to you, is evolve your primitive hunter-gatherers through thousands of years of technological advancement. Feed, protect and grow your tribe, build towns and industry, and advance through the ages in this first-person civilization builder for PC. Play with your friends in cooperative or competitive multiplayer, all on a procedurally generated planet larger than Earth. So I wrote that description quite a long time ago, but it does still fit the game really well today. So Sapiens has a really key focus on technological advancement. There will be a tech tree that you advance through. There are survival elements. The people in your tribe, the Sapiens, will starve, they will need food, they will need sleep, they will have needs and desires that you will need to fulfill if you want to progress. There will also be threats from other tribes, from other players, and from animals and probably other things too. Much like a city builder, you'll be building houses for your people, you'll be building structures that house equipment to create tools and to further your progression. So this game is taking a lot of elements from various genres: god games, city builders, simulations, and even a bit of real-time strategy. And how exactly all of those different genres balance up in the eventual game, I'm not sure yet, and I'm just sort of seeing how it goes. But it doesn't fit nicely into a particular genre. So that's sort of an overview of what this game is and what I plan it to be. I should probably also, just for a little bit of context, mention a little bit about me. So I am developing this game by myself. I am a solo developer. I've got over 15 years of experience making games. I've made a number of successful games already, and the success of those games is funding development. So I'm self-funded and solo as far as the development and design and music and art and everything goes. There are a couple of exceptions to the solo thing. I've got Camilla working for me as a community manager part-time. She's been with me for a number of years now, doing support for blockheads, and also she'll be doing a bit of community management for Sapiens as well. And I've also got a couple of contractors in from time to time to help me out with sort of server infrastructure and things, and I'm not opposed to doing that. But yeah, mostly it's just me. So the first real question is, when will it be released? Now that's a little bit tricky to answer, as you can imagine. I don't have any publishers or investors breathing down my neck, so I have quite a lot of time as far as that's concerned. I'm not in a massive hurry, and I've already spent a couple of years full time on this, and I think there's probably another 2 years to go, more or less. My current aim for release is the end of 2020, but it may get pushed out further than that. I'm being fairly realistic. At some point I'm going to have to sort of draw a line and say, okay, this is the game that I'm going to release for version 1. But beyond that, I do plan to add more content in the form of major releases. So yeah, I'm at some point I need to draw a line and say, this is version 1, but it's not going to be the end of the game at that point. So the next question is, how much will it cost? So this is an indie game, it's not AAA, it doesn't have hundreds of people working on it that all need to be paid, and so that immediately puts it within a certain price range. But I think it is probably a quite high quality indie game. I think, I'm spending a lot of time on it, and it's, going to have quite a lot of content, a lot of playability, and so I think it's probably at the higher end of the indie sort of price range, and that really gives me a quite narrow window. It's going to be somewhere between roughly 20 to 25 US dollars. So yeah, I can pretty confidently say that it's going to fall in that price range. The next question, can I be a beta tester? The answer is yes, you can. Not yet. There is nobody testing this game currently, and that's going to be the case until later on this year. And so my release plan for this game is to not go with Steam Early Access. I don't really believe in that, and I don't really think that it's a good fit for the game that I'm making in my development process. So the game is going to release as 1.0, and that will be the first time that everyone in the public can play it. Before that, I will be having a series of closed alpha and beta tests with small numbers of players. I plan to sort of, initially it'll be just maybe a dozen players, and then slowly I'll add more and more as we go through next year. So those players will be handpicked by me, and I will be sourcing them from within the community. So if you want to be involved and want to have some chance of being one of these early testers, then your best bet is to just sort of be active in the community, really. Join the forums, join the Discord. We've got 1,000 people in the Discord now, and it's fairly active, and I'm in there nearly every day posting about development and stuff. So yeah, if you're really into it and you really want to get in early, then that's the way to go. But if you just want to play it, then you're probably best just waiting until the official release. Next question, what are the system requirements, and will there be a Mac or a Linux version? So I guess because there's still a couple of years out before release, I don't know exactly. I'm developing it on a fairly beefy PC with a decent CPU, but I'm definitely optimizing it as much as I can to make it run on slower processors, and I think it will run fairly well on any kind of multi-core processor. The main thing is probably going to be your graphics card, and what I'm using for development is a GTX 1060, which is sort of fairly middle to top end at the moment. Not super top end, but it's up there at the moment. But I think in 2 years' time that will be very low end. So the GTX 1060 won't be the minimum card either. That will be probably the minimum to run it at fairly high settings at 60 frames per second on a high resolution, maybe 4K display. But if you want to turn those settings down a bit, run it at 1080p, scale back your render distance a bit, you'll be able to run it on a much poorer quality card. So I'm doing my best to try to support some of the older cards too. As far as Mac and Linux go, I do have a Mac build right now that's running on my Mac, and I'm planning to keep that going. The issue that I have with Mac is that I'm using Vulkan, and that the middleware that I'm using for that, Molten VK, is just a little bit, you just don't know if that's going to keep working. You never know what Apple might do. 2 years is a fairly long time, so we'll have to wait and see. But if it technically can run on the Mac, then I'll probably ship it for the Mac. Linux, I don't want to promise anything there because it is a very small market, and I'm a one-man band. I can't spread myself too thinly, as I've said, but I think that should be doable. I think because I'm using Vulkan, and because basically everything's cross-platform, I've made my engine to be cross-platform. There should be no reason why it shouldn't be able to work on Linux as well. But yeah, I just don't want to promise anything for Mac or Linux at this point. Windows is the biggest market, and that's my primary drive. The next question, do you have a Patreon? Can I support development somehow? So no, I do not have a Patreon. The reason for that is that I have made enough money from my previous games to be able to support the development of Sapiens. And so I don't think that asking for more money at this point is the right thing to do, basically. And yeah, so I don't need any investors or any financial support. What I do need is you to just spread the word. I need you to wishlist it on Steam. Would be a fantastic way to support me, because Steam Valve, when they're looking at what to promote, they look at how many wishlists a game has. So the more wishlists that I have, the better, and it means that maybe you'll remember and come back and buy the game when it's out, and that's what will allow me to keep developing it. That's how you can support it. On to the next question, will there be multiplayer? And if so, will there be a Linux server? So yes, there will be multiplayer, very definitely. I've been making this game with an internal server all the time, so all of the code is always multiplayer. Whenever I'm designing things, I have to sort of separate it out into client server. So it's all there, it's already multiplayer, you can already play it. I've tested it quite recently with 2 different players and a third server. and everything worked pretty well. The focus will be on cooperative multiplayer, probably. That's what I'm really interested in. That's what I want this game to be about, is sort of building together, working together to kind of progress and make big cities and towns and so on. But I will also have competitive multiplayer too. You'll be able to play it that way if you like too. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, both cooperative and competitive. And there will be definitely a Linux server. I've already got that working too. And probably Windows, possibly Mac too. I won't be hosting the servers myself. I'll be just leaving that up to people to host their own servers, and I'm sure that there will be services that spring up that offer paid hosting if that's what you're after. On to the next question, will it support mods? Yes, again, very definitely. I have created the game engine and the game itself as two quite separate entities. The game engine is C++, and all of the game logic and everything is Lua. And so basically half the game is pretty much open source and lets you just mod it however you like. How I actually expose that, I haven't decided yet. Yeah, I guess there's security issues and there's also game sort of cheating and fairness issues. So yeah, that's probably the limiting factor. But I think in general, I want it to be very, very moddable, and the engine certainly supports that. And you'll be making mods in Lua. You'll be able to sort of import your own models and everything. And I think modding is going to be absolutely huge in this game. I really want it to be huge, and I've made it as easy as I can for people to make it the way they want. So yeah, I'm quite excited about mods in this game. Okay, next question. What engine does this game use? Does it use Unity? No, it does not. It uses my own engine. And yeah, that pretty much answers that and leads on to the next question. Why did you make your own engine? Are you crazy? So I've written a blog post about that. You can find that on the forums at playsapiens.com. So if you want to sort of hear my response to that in detail, you can go and have a look at that. So basically there were quite a few reasons why I decided to go this route. The main one, and really, I mean, it might as well be the only one, is that I could. That's what I've done all the way along. I started making games over 15 years ago, and at the time there weren't really any great engines to use. There were a few, but there was nothing like what you have now. And so most people made their own engines. It wasn't really a big deal. And I've just continued to do that. And I've learned every step along the way. I started off with just 2D games. I've sort of slowly added more and more 3D elements to them, but sort of kept 2D, kept certain elements 2D to keep it simple. And this time I thought I'd go full 3D. Why not? I think I have the expertise to do that. I haven't been reinventing the wheel because I've already got the wheels. I've already got a bunch of stuff that I've done for other games. I've already figured out how to solve certain problems, and so it's just a logical next step for me. There'd be no real reason to go and suddenly switch to an engine at this point. But there are a few other considerations. I did have a look at Unity and Unreal. I sort of had a decent did a bit of research. And there are a few things that really sort of stopped me from going down that route. One in particular was that I wanted to make a world, larger than Earth, and so that requires double precision. And I also wanted to make the world quite deformable, so you can modify the terrain, you can create lots and lots of things. And the game engines aren't really designed with that in mind. Like, they're certainly capable of it, but they are more designed for sort of static levels that you create and in limited scale. And I just thought that, though it might be possible to do it using the engines, that I would sort of be fighting them a little bit. Whereas if I make the engine exactly catered for what, bespoke engine for what I need, then, it's just a better result. So also, I guess I knew that this was going to be quite a complex game. And as a solo developer, I have the privilege of being able to know exactly what every line of code does, well, until I forget, at least. So because I have that advantage, I should really utilize it. So that means that if I then write all of my engine code, then I know how all of it works. I've got this map in my head of everything. Whereas if I use a game engine, then I don't know. Even if you have the source, it's such a large thing that learning how every aspect of that game engine works is just, I mean, it's an impossible task. And you don't need to know everything, but I think that having that low level knowledge is just really, really valuable, and I like to leverage it. And yeah, of course, I just really enjoy it. I just really like making my own engine and just getting really my hands dirty and getting into the low level stuff. So, you know, that's how I kind of concluded that blog post was, you know, whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, because yeah, that's what's important. You got to love what you do, and if you don't, then the game's going to be worse and might not get finished. So on to another question: will it support VR? Now that's a little bit tricky too. I don't know. I'm not going to promise it, but it is quite likely. And the reason for that is that I've kept VR in mind all along. I was actually really excited about VR a few years ago, and an early version of Sapiens actually had a VR build that you could use with the Oculus Rift. And that was quite a lot of fun, and it just felt so cool being in that world and having that kind of sense of scale. It was quite unique, really. So I think it would be a really good fit for VR, and I've really tried to design the engine and the user interface to an extent with VR in mind. Things like it being a forward renderer, fairly low poly, and really sort of taking all the work off the main thread. I've done a lot of things technically to make it quite easy. So yeah, I think that it's quite likely, although it is one of these features where, you know, it depends a lot on the market at the time, whether there's the demand for it, whether VR takes off in the next 2 years or just stagnates, will probably be the driver in that decision. Next question: how big is the world? So the world is 1.3 times the size of Earth. So literally, if you sent one of your Sapiens walking off in one direction, then they could get back to where they started, but it would take 1.3 times longer than it would take to walk around the entire Earth. So it's huge, very huge. So I guess that leads straight into the next question: how are you going to make use of it being so big? Now that's an interesting thing that came up a lot in the comments of the 4-year summary video. And it's not something that I anticipated. It's not something that I actually thought of as a problem at all. I guess in the early stages I did think that it might be a problem, but now that I'm actually at this point in development, it just hadn't even crossed my mind for some time. So there are a couple of reasons why I don't think that it's actually a problem. The first is that when I started making this game, I just really wanted an infinite world. You know, that was the goal. Just, you know, you can keep going in a direction for as long as you want, just keep expanding and not hit an invisible wall. Another way to kind of explain this kind of issue is basically if you can just zoom right around the world in any amount of time, you have to be sort of further out to space, because otherwise everything's just a blur. So you're basically scaling down the world. You know, it's all relative. If you've got no fine-grained control at a high detail level, then the scale is meaningless. So the only real way to make use of this scale is to operate at this tiny level. But that's not to say that you're not going to be able to explore it. I mean, I'm going to have boats in this game for sure. I'm going to have some kind of fast transport, whether it be riding horses or something, and possibly even beyond, I don't know. But as I said before, just having the massive world there just adds this authenticity. The fact that you can see a mountain in the distance and actually spend, you know, a lot of time getting to it is just really cool. And knowing even that there are mountains beyond, you know, lands beyond that you will probably never get to. And that leads quite nicely into this next question of how far do you plan to take this? You know, how advanced are these Sapiens going to be? And that's kind of an open-ended question, because it could go very far, right? I mean, you could go into the modern age and beyond, and I'd love to do that, and maybe that will happen, I don't know, but it's not going to happen for version 1. And the reason is that's a lot of work. That's years of work, and I'd be crazy to just sit on the game and not release it and just do all of that work and then put it all out there in one big go. So what I'll be doing is probably getting, I think for version 1 I'll aim for around about the medieval to industrial age. I don't know exactly how far it'll get. I think you'll probably you will be farming, you will be building medieval kind of structures, you'll be forging metal tools, iron tools, and that's definitely going to happen. But how far beyond that it gets, I don't know. It'd be great to start getting a bit of machinery happening, sort of steam-powered stuff. That would be awesome, and I do hope to get to that point before the first release. but we'll see. And if I don't, then I'll probably get to it in future releases. If the game does well enough, then I'd love to keep working on it and going further into the future. So those are sort of the major questions for now. I think there's quite a few others, but I don't know. I think I'll leave it at that. I guess the only other thing is sort of people asking where they can suggest features or find out more information. So you can go onto the forums, would be the best place to make suggestions. I do read the suggestions there, and yeah, there's people who might want to comment on them, or sort of you can all figure it out together. There's also the Discord, which if you want to just jump in there, there's now 1,000 members on that Discord, and I'm in there pretty much every day. And yeah, I might not answer every question you've got, but someone else probably will. And I need to say in every video now, please go wishlist this game on Steam. It is now on Steam. It has a Steam page right now. The link is in the description, so please go and do it. It'll help me out, and you'll get notified when the game is released. So I'm going to leave it there for the FAQ, and if you've been watching my devlog videos, you probably would have noticed a few new things in here, in the background here, with the building of structures and stuff. So yeah, I've been working hard over the last couple of weeks, and I will be doing another devlog video next week talking about all of these great new features. So until then, we'll see you next time.